It's the state of the dungeon. It's a video that Rob does about his games. Yeah! Hello, my friends. It is I, Rob, here once more with you for another State of the Dungeon address. This one for the game of Dungeons & Dragons, which took place on October 1st, 2020. The game, of course, was attended by all players. So we did have the full complement of myself, Corbrecht. We had Tredovic, our rogue. We had Glint, our warrior. We had Kaithian, our cleric. And we had Lydia, our fighter. So, a full complement. No one race really the same except for the dwarven consolidation of Glint and Corbrecht. But we had quite the little series of encounters. We were, of course, in the Misty Forest looking for a green dragon and its worm speaker master that we were determined to flesh out and destroy. This thing had attacked a number of villages inside the Misty Wood where people were just, trying to make a living and do whatever they need to do, and this dragon is killing them, and as part of their purge for the dragon cult, they're taking all the treasures and bringing them up to serve as an offering for Tiamat. Well, we weren't going to let that stand. So, the plan was we were going to find the dragon's lair and kill it. Relatively straightforward. We were ready for a pitched battle. We've got dwarves who are resistant to the dragon's breath weapon. We have a number of protections against the dragon's breath weapon. We were ready to go in and attack. So, we went in, and initially, the forest was full of fog, which is a good giveaway that it's a dragon's lair. And out of the mist, we were attacked by a series of spiders and a pair of ettercaps. This was not a challenge for our group. Outside of getting bitten a few times, and resisting the poison, I don't think anybody took any serious damage. We easily annihilated the foes and even killed the last ones trying to flee. It was not a very difficult encounter for our level, so it felt good just dominating our opponents. Creepy as spiders are, they also thematically tend to be tied up with this particular green that we're hunting. You see, we faced this one before. It was a young green dragon that had taken over the small town of Thunder Tree, and it had been artificially aged by the cult of the dragon, so that it's now an adult size and much more powerful. We want to put an end to it because it's offended us. So, we got done with that fight, and we continued to go inward. We were following trails left by raiders from the dragon cult, and though it was difficult to track, eventually it led us to a briar maze. Now this maze was, let's just say it rose up again at the presence and will of the green dragon, and it obscured the tracks. So all we could do was continue following. So, if you're playing a wizard who can unlimitedly create bonfires and blasts of flame, briars aren't that much of a problem, really. So since it just took a raw amount of damage to burst through a section of briars, I was just burning through this maze, which worked out just fine. I mean, they could have chopped through it. We could have flown over it, which might have been the smarter choice. But, when you're a wizard, sometimes you just got to cut loose a little bit. And it's just a cantrip. It wasn't burning off my energy. And plus, it might have drawn some of the defenders towards us so we could have another fight rather than having piecemeal attacks coming when we are confronting the dragon. It didn't seem like it was optimal, so we were announcing ourselves to a little degree. And we got through the briar maze, again burning a straight line through it. At the end of this, we heard footsteps approaching. It sounded like the dragon cult knew we were there. Good, they have eyes. And were getting ready to attack us. Well, rather than dealing with the mist and all of that, Corbrecht took out his Gem of Seeing and used it, and could see where the cultists were. and I decided to let the rest of the party know where they were, with a fireball. Didn't do nearly as much damage as I was hoping for. Well, I just threw it at 3rd level, so it did about 26 damage. Many of them made their saving throws. I don't think it killed any of the cultists. We're facing a little bit tougher cultists now. But it did burn off the mist around them so that they lost their concealment. The rest of the group capitalized on this immediately and started pouncing on their outliers, who were their weaker members. So we got some kills early. But we got too cocky. Realistically, that's what happened. As we were lining up and setting our attack, as they were kind of stumbling around trying to return fire, we were firing off cantrips and spells into their midst, launching attacks. All of a sudden, out of the mist, a blue dragon, a young blue, lights up our group with one volley of lightning. This is what we in the business call it sucks, because we're all ready for green dragons. This blue dragon we were not ready for. No resistance to lightning, except for Glint, who's wearing a suit of armor that protects him against all breath weapons. He's got the right idea. The rest of us, not so much. He managed to get just about everybody in our group with a single blast, only missing one member. And while many of us made the saving throws, fortunately Corbrecht is pretty dexterous, it did mean that we took a chunk of damage in the beginning of the fight. And this wasn't even against the green yet. So we were split, really. We had Kythian on one side of the battle, who was still trying to take on the cultists. And on the other side, we had a couple branch off to go and deal with the blue. Corbrecht cast Earthbind on it to stop its flight, and that worked. Thank you, Arathator, who gave him the spell involuntarily to cripple dragons when we fight them. And as far as it forced the dragon to land rather than try to fly around while it is crippled inside of a thick forest. So it had to land, which meant Glint and Tridovic went over to attack it. Not before it fired off another lightning blast in the second round to also, again, hurt almost everybody who we didn't move out of the way. I really thought I'd have a little bit more time to engage my battle plans, and yeah, that didn't work out so well. Those attacks, plus direct attacks from the cultists, dropped Kythian. And when the healer goes down, you really need to come up with a good idea on how to fix that. My plan was, as Corbrecht, teleport on top of Kythian to protect him and stand fast against whatever came up from the cultists and hope that dragon didn't get to breathe again. It was really all I could do. So while this was all happening, the cultists were still creeping forward, who weren't getting killed. Fortunately, Lydia swung over and helped me out. But one of the dragon cultists, their champion, moved forward and was determined to put Kythian down for good. And to that end, savaged him while basically attacking around Corbrecht's legs. This meant that when Kythian then rolled a 1 for his death save, he died for real. This was not good. We had to draw this fight to a close. Now, Lydia is a machine at cutting down cultists. With her girdle of giant strength and a magical sword, she is like a reaping scythe through ripe wheat. And she downed a number of the henchmen. Corbrecht tried to hold them off with a cone of cold from his Staff of Frost, but in the end it came down to throwing out bolts of fire and doing what he could do to try to whittle down the number of foes. Eventually, Glint and Tridovic absolutely savaged the dragon. Tridovic with a vicious, vicious critical, which finished it. If Tridovic can get a sneak attack, which is facilitated by Corbrecht's menacing strike, yeah, that's a lot of damage. And a critical, the dragon didn't know it hit it. So the dragon died, and we basically fell back in together and took out the rest of the dragons. I did end up having to use a counter spell on a cultist trying to cast a sending spell to summon more reinforcements or warn the dragon. But in the end, after it was done, the cultists were all dead. We were kind of left looking at each other like, what do we do now? Kytheon's dead. Well, we had options. I could cast a teleportation circle, and we could whisk our way back to Waterdeep. Or Family. Well, Waterdeep would have made sense. They have temples there, and we could have gotten resurrected. But instead, my choices were preempted because Glint has an Ifriti bottle. And he uncorked it. He used the Ifriti bottle to summon the prince that was inside, a very powerful Ifrit, and it was able to grant 3 wishes. Now this is the player's first experience with wishes in Dungeons and Dragons. It's a magical time. Every player should have a chance to have their own shot at taking wishes and seeing what happens. And his luck, his first chance was with an Ifriti who's only looking to twist your wishes to something that is not helpful or actually hurts you. So he wished for Kytheon to be brought back to life with us, trying to put in as many words as he could to the effect of, I wish you just resurrect him. He didn't specify enough, however. So the Ifrit took the road of least resistance, and rather than using a full resurrection, which would have risked wish shock, instead it decided to use a reincarnation spell. And Kytheon was back with us as a mountain dwarf, not as a human anymore. As far as Corbett is concerned, it's an upgrade. Kytheon is not amused. He's pretty sure his dad's going to disown him now. What, your son is now going to live for, 300, 400 years. Not such a bad thing, really. And he's the 4th son of his family. It's not like he's the one that's needed to pass on the family name. But he's a dwarf now. So that's a thing. Not like he won't be able to get a true polymorph spell to turn him back into the same boring human he used to be. But the Ifrit was quick to tell Glint, well, you have to use your further 3 wishes. I don't just pop back into the bottle for you to use whenever you feel like. You got 2 more wishes to use, and I'm gone. So Glint was like, well, I need these wishes. What do I do with them? And my first thought was, well, you've got to think about what's important to you. Other people were quick to suggest, use him to get us all of our wounds restored and our magics and powers back. So he used that wish. He wished that we would have all of our stuff restored. I heard this and I thought, oh dear, no. No. Okay. And sure enough, with a smile, the Ifrit whisked us all to the city of Brass, his home plane. We were to be his guests for a long rest so that we would have our full replenishment and our full spells. This, of course, meant that we were no longer on the plane, we weren't anywhere around the dragon anymore, and yeah, getting that stuff back wasn't going to help us. We weren't anywhere that, we could do anything. It really hurt. So, granted, we got to look around in the city of Brass, which is cool. It's this great big city of Ifritis, in the elemental plane of fire. How often do you get to go and take a vacation out to the elemental plane of fire? Not too often. The environment is hot but livable, so it's kind of cool, honestly. The others weren't as amused. Corbett was like, hey, let's go shopping, let's go have fun, and they're all like, no, we need to get back. And truly, Corbett understood that we needed to get back. But how? Well, at least in the city of Brass, there's ample avenues out of the city of Brass if you have the wealth and know where to look. We had an Ifrit with Wish, though, so Lord, the player running Glint sized up his third wish. He wished that we were once more back where the encounter had started. Which didn't make the prince real happy because he was about to invalidate his second wish. He had given us a tour, and that was about it. But he had to honor the wish. So, whoop, back to the prime plane we were. But not back to the dragon's forest. Oh, no, 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 no. Instead, we were sent back to the Sea of Moving Ice, where we had gotten the Afridi bottle from the horde of Arothator, Old White Death, where we had killed him. This was long ways away from where we wanted to be, of course. But turned out that it had its advantages. Number one, I'd wanted to go back anyhow, because it occurred to me later that we didn't properly dispose of the corpse of Arothator. As a adult dead dragon, the cult of the dragon frequently looks for these bodies so that they can serve as hosts for Dracoliches. I didn't really want to see Arothator's corpse being used as another vessel for a Dracolich. It seemed like a bad idea. So I made sure that we destroyed the body completely. We'd already mined it for, well, we're using from 4th edition. We're kind of using Residuum as a sum up for all of the bits and bobs of creatures that can be used for enchanting. So we're just basically using that as an easy run measure. So we'd already gotten everything out of the corpse we could, so I just made sure to burn it using my Create Bonfire to make sure there was nothing that they could use. Along the way, we finished looting the Dragon's Lair, which we didn't do the first time. Turns out we missed a few things. First of all, there was one of Elminster's old spellbooks was frozen in ice. I got a useful spell called Ice Melt from that dragon, so I was able to retrieve that. I have no idea what spells are in it yet, but surely there should be something there that's useful. Also, we found a Helruin skyship. Yes, a flying ship. So we don't have to teleport everywhere, which is good because I only know so many runes to take us to various places. The ship was well preserved. It was ready to go. It just needed to be powered with a few choice spells, which I can do, Kytheon can do, could take any kind of spell. And we basically freed it from its icy prison after being convinced that we had looted the place of everything now, this time for sure. And we flew back to, first to Luskan. We wanted to go to Luskan because I needed something. Because it's a flying ship. I, as the wizard, am the captain of this ship. That's just how it works. I mean, it's the law or something. But the problem was I couldn't be a proper captain without a hat. I needed the right hat. You might look at me and ask, why would you care so much about hats? I tell you, this is a person who has a hat shaped like a crab on my head. So, yes, I needed the right hat. So, we went to Luskan, because Luskan is the home turf of one Jarlaxle, a drow who's got his fingers on everything and is known to have incredible sartorial sense. To find him, because he's kind of an underworld figure, and I'm not an underworld character, I took Tredovic with me, who is an underworld figure. And first of all, we paid a visit to the sage that we had freed from Arothator. She was happy to see us. I checked to make sure that she was, responding well to her freedom, and it turns out that the Arcane Brotherhood in Luskan is basically treating her as their pampered slave, milking everything that they can out of her about her time that she spent with Arothator. Fair. But she couldn't get us a direction with anything with Jarlaxle because that's not the circles that she travels in. She didn't even know who he was. He's a shadowy figure. He's more notable because, he's in the fictions. But we've actually seen him, and I've seen his hat, albeit with a different character, but still. So, we did, however, thanks to Tredovic, get a drop on where we could see him. We took a little sidebar off, visited with him, and I got myself a new hat. It is got a broad brim. It is purple with a yellow band around it. It looks garish, and it's perfect for Corbrecht. It also can function as a hat of disguise, so I can actually look like I'm wearing pirating clothes, which is awesome, while I'm wearing my breastplate armor. But that was an absolutely essential stop. So I'm grateful that the group indulged me and allowed me to do all of that, because it's fun. And then we set off once more. This time, though, we were going to Daggerford, which is the city that's the closest. It's basically right into the Misty Wood. And we are on good terms with the ruler, or the governor of Daggerford, a retired paladin that we know and respects us. And we asked him if we could moor our ship at his keep. And he said that was fine. It's got a good security device on it, so we're fine leaving it there. This was also after we kind of pimped out the ship a little bit by putting, ballistae on it, and I think a catapult and a magical cannon on the front, and my ship is prepared. So, I wish I could remember what I named it. But we have a name for it. It's awesome. So we, once again, got ready to set off, because we did a divination to find out if the worm speaker's still there. He's not. The mask is gone. It's no longer in the wood. Over half of the reason we had to go in there is now gone, which is unfortunate. That doesn't mean we're not killing that dragon, though. We're taking that weapon out of the dragon cult's hands. He is their tool. He is their weapon. We're getting rid of him. So we're determined to go back. And hey, now Kythion's a dwarf, so he's automatically resistant to poison, and he gets advantage on saving throws against poison. It's perfect! Couldn't have worked out better, right, Kythion? Deep down, he admits it's true. So, we are prepared to go in and take it on. We also, however, through that divination, verified that the dragon has had reinforcements. So all the dragon cultists that we killed, and maybe that blue dragon, have now been replaced. So we have to be ready for that. Which means that, yes, Corbrecht has to change up his spells to be a little bit more wary. Which is fine, I guess. And the rest of the group hopefully has the different measures that they needed to be ready to go. And we are going to go and take it to the dragon once more and try to get our big dragon fight. So we'll see how that works. Thank you for joining me, but that is the end of the session. And next time, another dragon fight perhaps? Maybe something crazier? We don't know. It's part of Dungeons & Dragons. So until next time, thank you very much, and farewell.